everybody, Cindy here. Welcome to Resize Bite. Today I'm making my favorite soup. It is cold outside. I need something warm and creamy, and I'm making spaghetti squash soup. Yes, I know, spaghetti squash. You can have it as a soup. Last year, I was looking for ways of changing it up because I was tired of eating it the old-fashioned way as a spaghetti, which is not. And I found a way to make it into a creamy, delicious soup. Now I know it's very different, but if you love soups, you'll love this soup. I roasted my spaghetti squash whole. I know some people cut it up into pieces, some people cut it down the middle, but look, I roasted mine whole. Nothing happened, it didn't explode. It's perfectly cooked inside, delicious, waiting for it to cool down. Never, ever, ever, ever stick a knife into your spaghetti squash. Just let it cook in the oven. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees and let it cook for 2 hours depending on the size. You just have to watch it. See when it glows like this and is perfectly browned, it is cooked. You're going to continue to cook it in the soup, so no need to worry. But here's how I make my soup. Can't wait to dig into it. Here's how I have roasted my beautiful spaghetti squash here, and what I'm gonna do is, it's a bit warm and I'm gonna transfer it to a plate. So I have taken my beautiful spaghetti squash out of the oven. It is very hot still, but I can touch it with my fingers. Now it's gonna be mega hot inside, but as you can see, it is very tender. So what I like to do is that I like to cut it open and let it finish cooling open. See the beautifulness inside? It's still piping hot. You don't have to go through the trouble of cutting it when it's very hard inside to get it tender. 2 hours, preheat your oven to 350 degrees, depending on the size of your squash. You're gonna look for that golden brown color outside, and if you want to, you can fork it, but I don't suggest so, because when it's cooking, it will steam from within and it might hurt you. Believe me, I've had others kind of spew out stuff, very hot stuff. Now, see how easy it is to extract these seeds? Do not throw away these seeds. These seeds are so good. So what I do is that I transfer them to one of these colanders and I just rinse them out of the gook, not the gook, but you know, the meat of the squash. See, it's very easy to extract the seeds. And these seeds I'm gonna roast. They're a little bit high in carbs, but let me tell you, when you roast them with your favorite sweetener and a little bit of cinnamon or nutmeg, and you roast them and then you sprinkle them over your soup, it is delicious. And I'll show you how on another video. But for now, I'm gonna show you how easy it is to take out the meat out of your squash. And basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna let it cool on this plate, and then you're gonna continue to the next step of your soup. See how tender it is and easy to extract the squash? Very easy. It's a little bit hot and I forgot. Watch that it doesn't burn, because I burned my last one and it did not taste good. Okay, so I'm gonna let this cool here for a minute. Now we're gonna move on to making the base for our soup. It's very easy and simple. So heat up your pan. Into your pan, you're gonna put about a tablespoon of olive oil and you're gonna let it heat up. So I've made this recipe with shallots or onions. I think that shallots pair up so well with this recipe. Onions are great. So if you have onions, go ahead and use onions, but shallots are the best for this recipe because the spaghetti squash has a sweetness to it. And I believe that the shallot brings out more of the sweetness of the spaghetti squash. It is so delicious. So what you're going to do is you're going to cook your shallots until they're a little bit translucent in the oil. At this point, you're going to put a little bit of salt. I use Himalayan sea salt, so about 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan sea salt. And of course, you're gonna salt this, but then you're gonna taste your soup, and if it needs more salt, then you can go ahead and add more salt. And this is just an easy recipe. I created this from leftover spaghetti squash when I made it to have like spaghetti. I had leftover and I was like, I don't want to do the same thing, so I made it into a soup. So you're going to add a little bit of pepper to taste. To the shallots at this point, because they're somewhat translucent, you're going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter. I think this is like 2.5. So it just depends on your macros. It depends on what you like in your soup. If you don't like too much butter, you can put more half and half, and vice versa. But the thing is that this combination of the shallots, the butter, and the heavy whipping cream, it's just a great combination for the soup. So now I have a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream that I'm going to put in there. Again, this recipe is mega easy, so good for the winter. I love it. You can pair this with any protein. I mean, I have had this with like pan stir-fried shrimps, chicken. I haven't had it with pork, but yeah, you can pair this up. I've had it, of course, with ground turkey, ground beef. You know, you make your soup and you make it as thin or as thick as you like, and then you top it with whatever protein you want. So you're gonna bring down the heat, medium to medium heat, and you're gonna let it cook a little bit. Okay. Once it thickens up like this, I think you're good. You've extracted the beautiful sweetness of the shallots into the butter and to the cream. So now, turn off the stove, and what you're gonna do is, your squash has cooled somewhat, and now you're going to bring it into the blender. So if you have an immersion blender, at this point you can go ahead and take the squash and put it into your pot. But if you don't, then you transfer it to a food processor. And I'm going to puree it. And I've done this a couple of ways, but I think that this is the best way to kind of get the spaghetti squash to a smooth, pureed consistency. Okay. It's a little bit messy, but believe me, it is good. So once your squash is in the food processor, you can go ahead and add the beautiful sauce that you made into your squash. And you're going to puree this all together until smooth. So you have to blend everything, unless you like lumps. I don't like lumps. So here goes. I'm going to start pureeing. You can start by chopping it down. Once you have chopped it down enough, you can go ahead into the puree mode. So you're going to puree this for about 30 seconds or so. And do you see the beautiful consistency? This is what you want. This is what you're looking for. And now you're going to transfer it back into your pot. And if you want it thinner, then you can go ahead and put a little bit of chicken broth. I actually like it on the thicker side, but I think I'm going to put in a little chicken broth just to show you. And I'm going to transfer medium heat, and I'm going to transfer all this yummy goodness back into the pot. So I got everything, and you see the consistency? It's just, oh, it's so good. So what I'm going to do is, I have this organic chicken stock. You can use vegetable stock if you like. So I'm just going to pour maybe a quarter of a cup to thin it out a little bit. It's just delicious. And you can go as thin or as thick as you like. But like I said, I prefer mine thick because it reminds me of a sweet potato soup. That's what it reminds me of. It is so yummy. So maybe another quarter of a teaspoon of salt. Stir it. And then you cover it. You let it simmer. And you serve. It is delicious. I mean, really. Delicious. Sweet, creamy deliciousness. My soup is piping hot. It turned out delicious. It is sweet, creamy, the perfect consistency, the perfect wintertime soup. I'm going to go have a bowl. I hope you like the recipe. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thumbs up to the video, and follow me on Instagram for more tips and recipes. Bye, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, turn your notifications on.
I want everybody to dance. I'm just like I tell you. And when I say hold yourself, I want all of you to get ready to stop.